Again, ladies and gentlemen, I have no idea, or it's meant to Jen. I have literally no idea how to say that because I am so sleep deprived. But you guys know it's your boy Sammy Chucks. I'm super excited to bring you guys such an amazing event and an incredible individual, which I'm really, really, really glad to sort of dive deep into the conversation with. We have the man himself, the malware alchemist. I don't know, like the nightmare of cyber criminals. I have no idea how to describe it. Randy, help me out here.
I mean,
The liquid, potato. I have no. How do you say it?
oh, see, this is why you need more sleep, my friend. But thank you for the awesome introduction. It is so
Well,
nice to
if
be
you're
with you.
watching this, oh, keep going, keep going.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
we did cut it short.
it is so nice to be with you, knowing that you have been tirelessly, or maybe very tiredly, skipping
Yes.
sleep over the last few days so that you can get ready for this awesome event. And this event that you're putting on, it has your heart and soul in it, and you can tell because of the extreme effort, the 110% that you're putting into it. So I salute you, and I'm very happy that my event, DeathCon, just got over this weekend, and it went really well. So I am now catching up on my sleep, and
I
yeah, it is
I,
definitely the time to recover.
I figured you're probably sort of, trying to get back to, learning what it feels like to have a good night's sleep after like a whole year of pain.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like a whole year. There's planning, and then it just gets really intense. Like the last couple of weeks, trying to get everything together. I mean, you know how it's like when you've been talking to people for a while, and all of a sudden
Yep.
plans go sideways, and things that they said they were going to do by a certain date, they can't do anymore.
Yep.
And you have to be flexible. You have to care about people. You have to figure out a way to make it work. But that's part of the fun too. People were asking me for that last week, like, is it crazy? And I'd say, yes, but it's crazy fun. Like, this
Good,
is
good.
what I signed up for. I knew what I was doing, and this is exactly that. And the reward for all of it that you're gonna experience as this hack for good goes on, and when it's over, is you're gonna get people telling you that was meaningful to me. I learned something. I made a friend. Like, this was meaningful. That's why you do it, right?
Absolutely. And I think I'm looking forward to that because this being our very first event ever. And so far, I've received a lot of really good text messages and messages, people going, I am having a ton of fun with my friends. And, the theme of the year and the way that it's been portrayed is so creative that it's telling the story whilst getting you to think at the same time. I think that's just been the biggest highlight for me. So, Randy, I haven't quite received a lot of those messages yet, but there's been a few that's sort of tickling in. I'm sure I'm going to, obviously, there's a few bug reports as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Can
like,
I can I tell you
is
really
this
quick
flag
about
supposed to be
like
this?
the
Yeah, go
biggest
for it.
mistake I made in this DEF CON? So I had all the participants on Discord, right, just like you've got, and the workshops are all in their own channels, and the workshop leaders had access, and the crew and the site leaders all had access to the workshop channels, but I kept them private from the participants, so there'd be a big reveal right at the starting time, and we had a good starting time that was going to work for Kuala Lumpur, and then I announced it. Everybody was kind of counting down. 15 minutes before it was supposed to go live, I start going through and changing the permissions on those things. And I don't know if you know about like changing permissions on Discord channels when you've got a whole bunch of roles to add, it's kind of
Yep.
slow. And it took me all 15 minutes to get through because I had them all these channels in a category, and you're supposed to just change the permissions on the category and it
And
syncs
then
with
it
all of
basically
them.
just roll out. Yeah.
Yeah, but if they're not in sync to start with, that was my mistake. You have to go through and click sync up the permissions on each one of them. So anyway, I did that, was like right on time. Everything got launched. I announced to everybody, workshops are live. Go get workshops, everybody. Go learn. Woo, woo, woo. And then I went into workshops to make sure like people are interacting, and like I saw participants in there talking and chatting. I'm like, cool. That verifies it's all good. Now the timing was I had told the people in Tacoma that I was gonna meet them at like 6, and this was right at 5. And so I was like, okay,
Wow.
I better get going. I better like get in the car and drive down there because I had just enough time. So I get in the car, I'm driving, go meet people in Tacoma. Meanwhile, while I'm driving the car, the chat is blowing up with people like, didn't Randy say the workshops are supposed to be like? Why can't I see the workshops? What's wrong with the permissions? What had happened was I had synced. I don't know how it happened, but I'm just gonna say it's my fault. I think some of the roles not all of the rules. So some people could see the workshops, most people
That's
could
the
not.
worst.
And it was not until I talked with people. I was in Tacoma, like not paying attention to the phone. I'm talking to people live, like really making friends and stuff. It was not till I get home hours later, that I see all this. I'm like, I'm sorry, people. Now, the good thing is all the people in Kuala Lumpur did get access right on time. So they were able to start their event on time by some kind of grace. But I felt really bad for everybody in Australia because they were like ready to go. It was mornings on Saturday for them, and they had to wait like an extra several hours. So anyway, that's on my top of my list to make sure that I do it better next year. But everything else, like that was like the worst thing that happened. Everything else was awesome.
You know what? Like, I also think what I'm learning is that those stories, like what you just shared right now, is part of the fun too.
Yeah.
When you try to get everything to work, and like you said, life is never ever perfect. Like you never get life to abide by your rules or fit in quite nicely in like a symphony. So it is those moments of despair. I would say despair because that's what I'm feeling right now. It's those moments of despair 3 days before the event, and someone goes, those challenges I was going to give you and donate, I kind of now want $1,000 for it. And you're like, we're not for profit. We don't give out money to challenges. We're gone, like literally. And then we have to sort of ramble in and go, where do we get challenges now? And you know what is actually the highlight for me? Is that people rock up. People show up from the most unlikely places. People like yourself who basically say, you know what, I've got the challenge that I did like 5 years ago. Here you go. I've got the challenge from here, middle of nowhere. Here you go. And guys, this is why, if you're there playing the Hck4G challenge, the CTF right now, this is why some of the flags are different. It is why some of the flags are not exactly in the same format. But guess what? Like I said, it makes the whole thing a lot more fun. So guys, if you are listening so far, we have the man himself. Like I said, he's the malware alchemist, the avid threat hunter, the death metal, con guy. And also, if you have no idea, Randy is also a pirate, a cyber pirate. So watch out, people. He's coming for your treasure. But Randy has an interesting story that I think is definitely worth sharing. And Randy, you've been on both sides of the fence. You've been in law enforcement, and you're also working in the private sector, and you've seen how things are done differently, how effective, and non-effective, the government is in some cases, and also vice versa, the private sector. The importance for both, I guess, different cohorts. So I'm kind of keen for us to dig deep into your, obviously going from your history and background in the FBI, some of the work that you did, obviously unclassified ones. Please don't share things that are classified because I would like to release this podcast.
Absolutely.
And then obviously, like, your life journey. Like, I also know that you're someone who's got a totally incredible story as well, even before you got into cyber. So I think that's something that people don't often talk about a lot. I think people's story are the total sum of, who they are. Whether that be good or bad, you got to learn from every single opportunity. So if you're watching, my name is Sammy Chucks, and I'm the founder and CEO of Hck4G and the Link Group. And you guys know what we are all about around here. We are on a mission to disrupt cybercrime in underserved communities and untapped regions globally with job-ready skills, awareness, and education in places where it's needed the most. I was having a chat with someone quite recently, and they said, well, we've got this amazing free affordable training. But what I made them understand is that your training might be affordable, but is it accessible? So with that, guys, welcome on the stage, Mr. Randy Pacman. Do I actually pronounce your name properly, Randy?
You got it. You nailed it.
Awesome. So Randy, what would be your opening statement? I know we've kind of had that impromptu conversation already. So guys, please, if you're watching, do not forget to comment. Do not forget to reshare this so we can get more people to be part of this conversation. I am super excited to hear Randy's story. So, mate, let's get started. So what would be your opening statement to the people watching right now on YouTube, on LinkedIn, who are literally right now maybe in the middle of their lunch here in Australia, or it's 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. right there in the Pacific time zone, or I believe it'll be around about the same time as well in Africa. So wherever you're watching, welcome. And this is the voice of change. Hck4G Con
2025.
Okay, let's go. Randy, there you go.
That was so cool. Well, Sammy, I have to say, I think a lot of people know your story. I was so impressed, and I feel like we are kindred spirits in a lot of ways because we were motivated by how we grew up. We were motivated by a family and things that we wanted to do when we were really young, and then we found our way through kind of a twisting path to where we ended up right now. And I think on your heart as well as on mine is like help other people, right? Pay it forward. Pay back all of the stuff that you got. So let me start, and I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on background, but yeah, I would be remiss if I did not talk about my grandma. My grandma taught me to write code with
No
basic
way.
programming from a magazine. This is the way that people did it like back in the days. You'd get a magazine in the mail, and it would have pages and pages of code listing, and you type the code, and there's something about like typing it, reading it, typing it, and then seeing that program run. And then if you mistype something, you'd have to debug it. And just that process of like going back and fixing mistakes, making mistakes, fixing mistakes. My grandma taught me to be patient, and she really taught me to just like all the hours that she spent with me. I'm sure it was
Wow.
killing her watching 10-year-old grandson like slowly type in on the computer, getting better and better. But she was just so patient. She never got impatient with me. Later on, my mom took me to a adult education class to learn programming. I was the only kid there. All the other people were grown-ups. But
No way.
we learned how to write code. And so like that was early on in my life. Like people putting time into me, people caring about me, and seeing a spark of like, hey, this kid is interested in computers. Like let's feed that flame. Let's like make that into something. And it's because other people put time into me that I was able to uh, do what I'm doing today. And so that's exactly what motivates me. That is what I'm thinking about when I'm spending long hours like putting together workshops for people. I love teaching. I absolutely love teaching. This is a theme that's going to come throughout it. But like DEF CON in Vegas, taught a workshop that was super fun. Taught a workshop at BotConf, and it's just been a joy connecting with people. And every time I teach, I learn something too. Somebody in the
Yeah.
classroom is
Yeah.
like, "Hey, you were saying how to do it like this. There's another way you can do it too." And sometimes I'd never heard of that before. So, yeah,
Yeah. That's actually really amazing. Like, right, you have no. There's a lot to unpack from that. Actually, I was gonna be normal for a second, but no, no, no. There's a lot to unpack from that. Like, seriously, your grandma thought you had a code. Like, guys, show of hands, whose grandma knows how to code here? Man, that is an incredible story, and I think what perhaps people are not hearing is the story of relationship, like multi-generational relationship, and trust and love right there, right? Because somehow I'm sure she wasn't thinking, oh, one day my son is going to grow up and make this amount of money or work at the FBI or do this or do that. She just saw something that was quite interesting and that she was passionate and enthusiastic about, and she thought to share that with you. And I think that's really amazing. I have no idea where your grandma is right now, but shout out to Randy's grandma wherever you are right now. It's been incredible to see how your story began and how you've obviously kind of worked your way up to where you are right now. So tell me, all right, you've done this, figured out how to do a bit of coding here and there, and you decided, you know what? What next? What do you do? Do you go to university? Do you go to colleges? For those who are in the US, here in Australia, we call them TAFEs. Did you go? Do you go to a TAFE, or what do you do? Like, what's the next step from now learning how to write? I wouldn't say basic code, but at least learning
yeah.
how to write some code. So, what was your next step?
All right. So first of all, also shout out to my grandma. She is still with us. She's 97 years old, and she makes
Shut
the
up.
best passwords I have ever seen. She writes them down in a little secret book, but she shows them to me when I come over, and she's like, "Hey, is this a good password?" And it's like 23 characters long. It's got symbols and
What?
numbers and uppercase and lowercase, and every password is unique. And I'm like, "Grandma, you rock! Like you are cyber granny. That is just
Yeah,
awesome."
that is it. Hashtag Cyber Granny.
Yep, absolutely. I am so proud of her, just like she's proud of me. So anyway, next thing I did was when I was 18 years old, I got a job because I needed money, like most of us at 18, right?
As we all
And
do.
the job that was available that I tried out for was being a dispatcher. So answer when somebody calls 911, the
Yeah.
emergency number in the U.S. and a lot of other countries, I think, too. If they call on a cell phone, it would come to the place that I worked. And there were like, depending on the shift, I worked a lot of graveyard shift. There was sometimes just two people. It's like me and one other person. I'm like 18 years old with all this power and responsibility in my hands.
Yeah.
Sometimes people would call and, they need help because they're stranded on the side of the road. Sometimes they call like there's a car fire, whatever people would call on their cell phones for. Sometimes it was, some other violence, but sometimes people would call them like their life is literally in danger and they need help right away. And so that's the job where I learned to be calm, and that I learned that smooth is better than too fast. If you go too fast, if you start talking really fast, people don't understand you and you have to say it again. So going just the right speed, being calm, and also that the tone of voice that you have when you're talking to
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
And like now in my work, sometimes I deal with emergencies. Like, emergencies are engineering emergencies, right? Systems are not working the way they're supposed to, and we need to troubleshoot it really fast. And we get on a call and everybody's on Zoom, and I found just like slowing down, taking a breath, and just projecting calm and control in your voice, it helps a lot. So I really value that time that I had and the skill that I got in just being confident and being calm. While I was at that job, though, there was something that really bugged me. Like back then, we had really old computers, and they would have to go down for maintenance for like, I don't know, 5, 6 hours once a week. And during that time, like we couldn't keep track of all the stuff that we normally keep track of the computer, like who's called from where and where do we need to send people to and all of that. And we just have to like write it down and have all these sheets of paper. So that's where my programming skill came back in. I said like, hey, I learned how to program in BASIC. I didn't tell them, my grandma taught me when I was a kid. But I was like, I'm a professional programmer at 18. Like,
You left out the cool part of the story, my friend.
I could write this program. And so I spent like all my time outside of work writing this code. And I made this program that would take over when the computer systems were down. And it wasn't like the computer was down, it was like the central server was down. So we could still run local code. And it was like the same interface that we had for computer-aided dispatch. And we'd be able to keep track of everything. And then when the computers came back up, you'd hit a button and it would load all of that back into the computer so you didn't have to type it again. And then a guy who wanted to be a detective came and he's like, hey, I'm supposed to like track all these cases. And I asked for Microsoft Access, like a database. And they said, well, there's not enough money. Like, the police bosses are like, no, we can't buy that for you. He's like, I hear you can write programs. Can you write me a program? So I did. I wrote a database program that would take care of like all of his cases, and it would keep them all nice and organized. And it interfaced with like the state computer online. And so it could like look up information and like automate a whole bunch of his job. Well, he ended up getting promoted to detective on that. And he was like, I owe you lunch anytime you want it. And, as a kid, I took him up on that all the time. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So,
free
so I've
free
been
free
there for, like,
French fries, I'm guessing.
oh, yeah, whatever. I mean, working graveyard shift, you just eat whatever food is available. But, I wasn't making much money. And it was just fun. I was having a good time. I think the thing that made the most difference is the people I was working with had my back. Like I could count on those people no matter what. If it was in work or out of work, I could call those people at any time of the day or night, and they would come and take care of me if I needed it. Also, just the camaraderie that we had, like the friendship, made the work fun. Even though like sometimes it was real heavy. Sometimes there was death involved, not within our department, but just part of the job, and that can be really heavy. But just having that support system, having people that are with you, that know the job that you're doing, that you can talk about stuff even when it's dark, and they can like raise you up, they can support you so that you don't sink. That was huge. So I loved that job, but everybody there kept telling me like, dude, you can write computer programs. Like, why are you dispatching? Like,
What are you doing here?
this is a mismatch. You need to go make the big bucks. Like, you need to go work at Microsoft or something. And so I ended up going to school a long way from home. It was like, I don't know, like over 3,000 miles away. But it was the university that had the cheapest tuition and they had an automatic scholarship for something that I qualified for. So I'm like, I took all the
This is
money I
it.
saved up. I'd worked for 3 years and I saved most of my money. I took all of that and the scholarship and I went to school. And I don't think you can do this today, at least not in the US. But like back
Well, yeah,
then,
I hear the tuition fees and I go, what? I'm falling off my seat and going,
crazy,
is someone paying
crazy.
you like $150,000 once you finish that?
Yeah,
Not
it's
guaranteed. I'm like,
insane.
what on earth do you mean not guaranteed? But
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Like you keep going and then you were able to get in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I went and I studied computer science, and I think the thing that I didn't know was going to be an advantage, but it totally was, is I was a little bit older than most of the other people going to school. Like, I'd had 3 years of work after graduating from high school, and I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to study, and I knew why I was there, and so I worked really hard. A lot of my friends there, they were like switching majors, spending money and then wasting that money. I mean, it wasn't a waste. No education is a waste, don't get me wrong. But like they were spending a lot of money and I was laser focused. Well, even with all of that, like my money kept running out. And so I would get an internship, anything that would pay me. Basically, I was like, what job is there that I can do over the summer to like bring my bank account back up again so that I can like pay tuition and eat again? That's the way I was operating. My friends actually called me the career intern because they're like, dude, you're just going to keep going to internships and school for the rest of your life. So I was on my computer at school, and literally, I just had pop into my head, I wonder if the FBI has a website. And it made me laugh. I'm like, the FBI is super secret. Like, they're not going to have a website. They're going to pretend like they don't exist. Like, it's going to be, really, really kind of secretive. So I just, searched for FBI and it, came up. And of course, they had a website. I was a stupid kid. Yeah, and the first thing up on that website, up on the top banner, was now accepting applications for internships. So I
No
was like,
way. The
my first
best
question,
decision ever made.
is it a paid internship? That's what I cared about. I'm like,
You're like,
I'm
I
not going
don't
to go
see
work
other
for the
things, I see
FBI
the
unless they're
paid.
paying me because I can't afford a summer without getting paid. So I clicked on the link, and sure enough, it was paid. It was like very, very, very low pay, but it was enough. It was enough for me to get through school again. So I'm like, cool. I applied for that. It was the wildest application process for an internship. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. They made
Yep.
me like take a lie detector, a polygraph test, like go into the office. They said I had to show up in a suit, so I bought a suit. Still hanging in the back of my closet, I think. But like I bought this suit, and I made a big investment there because like I could barely afford like just getting myself through the week. But like I got this suit, I showed up, and what surprised me is like the special agent in charge of the field office sat down, just me and him, like across the desk. I was so intimidated, completely intimidated. But he put me at ease. He had this way about him that he was just like, it was like he didn't have all this power, like he didn't have all these,
Yep.
experiences with guns and criminals and like whatever else he'd done. And he was just talking to me, and he cared about me. And that's something that I took from him and a bunch of other people who I admire. That when you are in a position of power, recognize it. When you have the opportunity to talk to somebody, like take interest in them. That they expect that you're gonna like talk about yourself all the time, or that they want to like hear some cool stories or whatever. But if you just ask people about themselves and like take a real genuine interest in them, that builds them up even more. So I love that. Long story short, crazy wild ride, but they basically like made me go through almost a year of applications, and then they said the internship was canceled, and then like 2 weeks before it started they called me on the phone. I still remember because they woke me up. It was way too early in the morning for a college student. They're like, Mr. Parkman, this is the FBI. I'm like, what? And
This is a crazy story.
they're like, you still
What
want
have
that
I done?
internship? I'm like, yes, I do. They're like, okay, it's on. We're just doing half of the size, but like you made the cut. So like if you can show up in Washington D.C. in 2 weeks, like here's your ticket. We'll get you an airplane ticket. I'm like, dang, that was cool. So, I mean, it worked out really well, and that was the most weird, fun, like can't replicate that experience ever for a college student.
That story is, I have no idea how to, like, I don't even know what to reply to that. Your story is so, So good. And I like there's a lot that I'm picking out from there that has a lot of similarity to my story. Not having the the most buoyancy of a childhood, having to fight through pretty much every single thing. But there's that one thing that you highlighted, which is having great company,
Hmm.
right? Having the right
Yeah.
people around you who actually advocated for you, right?
Hmm.
Because if you were working in a very toxic place, they probably could have shut you down, like my grass crab, like try to shrink you down. But they recognized the greatness, the man himself, and they were able to sort of say, dude, maybe you should go do something else with your life. And you also trusted your instincts, because that's very rare to do. Like a lot of people choose fear first as opposed to going for greatness when the instinct is telling them, go do this. And this, I think one of the things I was saying to you in the backstage is like, one thing I've learned is that there's no such thing as the best time for anything. Like
Yeah.
you got to start. And I think you made wise use of the times that you had. And and I think there was a point you raised, which is that and I think it connects back to the power dynamic when you are in a place of authority or in a place of power. And there is this quote in the Bible where it talks about basically you being the leader means you're actually the chief follower.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's essentially sort of what you're referring to as well, where you are someone who is in a place of authority, but you're also supposed to be the loneliest person in the room. You're not supposed to load your power or your authority over people. And what I found interesting with what you're saying is that especially when it comes to communication, especially working in a dispatch job where someone's life could literally be on the line, and you can't rush anything. You can't essentially repeat yourself every second. Seconds repeated is literally potentially going to lead to fatality. So kind of keen to dive a little bit more into that. Was that something that was thought as part of that dispatch job, or did you just figure out, yeah, this is not going to work if I keep going at 1,000 miles per hour, just like I do? So was that something you learned as part of the job? Was that thought, or did you just pick that up, or you found out that you were natural at that? And also, if you don't mind, just maybe referring to, if you're comfortable to talk about that, did you actually have any situation where it actually came to the matter of life and death, obviously with respect to whoever it is?
Yeah, and you know what? I want to give a lot of credit to the woman who trained me when I was starting that dispatch job. So they had a really great training program where you would first go and like learn in school. So I went to the academy and like did simulated dispatch where they had role players call on the phone and like just you'd handle all this stuff and then you'd listen to the recording and they gave you this advice and that advice, like just getting that feedback, doing the repetitions, getting better, getting better, getting better, and then going back to the station, then I had a trainer who was basically like sitting next to me, and she always had the ability to like take over. She could take over the phone call. She could take over on the radio. Like if I was screwing it up, she wasn't gonna let anybody suffer because I was a kid learning the ropes. But she would just like listen to me, and then after the call was done, she'd give me some feedback like, hey, try something a little bit different, and just kept coaching me, coaching me, coaching me. And then once I was competent and I knew that I could do it, I was off of training. We'd still be like on the same shift for a long time, but she'd be working some other radio, some other phones, so she wasn't like listening in on my calls anymore. But she was still there as like the backup, and that's something that stuck with me too. Like having a mentor, having somebody who invests the time, and it's a serious time commitment. Like if you're gonna mentor somebody, if you're gonna be there for them, like you have to keep showing up when they need you. You can't just say like, "Hey, let's do this thing," and like
Yeah,
meet for coffee once, then say, "Well, if you ever need me, call me." Like you need
it's
to
not
be
just for the
right
good
there. You need to
days.
keep checking in on them.
Absolutely, I do agree, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Mentorship and coaching is not literally. I almost argue it's for the bad days only, because who needs a mentor and a coach when everything is working in a nice, soothing, dynamic. But
Hmm.
look, I think there's a lot that we're going to unpack that, but obviously due to time, we're going to move past that. We're going to
Yeah.
come back to the conversation around coaching and mentorship, because that's one of the things that sets the silent platform apart. The link group, that we are a people's first, we're a people's centered organization. Like we use automation, we use AI quite a lot in a lot of ways. But I tell my team this, that it needs to be able to support the person at the other end. It needs to be about the human. And I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of organizations are missing. So I know you guessed it. This is probably a segue into AI. So So I'm kind of keen to know your opinion without actually influencing that or throwing any bias at you. Like,
Hmm.
what do you think is going on, dude? Like, is this a boom or bust? What
Oh
are we doing?
gosh.
Like
Oh my
with
gosh.
humanity, is this a good thing? Should we be worried? Should I pack up and move to to my village in Lagos? I don't know. Lagos, Nigeria is probably a bit developed. I'm thinking Enugu State, Nigeria. Should I run away from the from the city? What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, so I would say no matter what is happening, lean into it, right? Like
Mm.
stuff is going to change in the world, and the pace of change is going to go faster than you think, and it's just going to keep getting faster and faster as you get older. Like that's why all the old people are like, I just don't know what's going on in the world anymore, right? Or you can be like my grandma and just like lean into it. She's like, hey, I am a grandmother, but like there's something new out there. There's writing computer programs at work. She also like was the first one to lean into using computers. She worked at a hospital, and she introduced everybody else to a better way of doing things. Anytime there's something new, new technology, especially when it involves the way that you do your work, it is disruptive and it makes people uncomfortable, right? Like we have all
Mm.
felt this lots of different times in our careers, but I don't think I have ever felt more uncomfortable than with all of the changes that came super fast with Gen AI. Because a lot of other things, like it's been one thing and it's been like kind of like this big revolution, like computers that people could have in their homes. That was a huge revolution, right? But it wasn't like the next week, then they
Yeah.
evolved, and then
Boom,
like the
boom.
next month they were like went from 4 colors to 256 colors, and then like a week
Yeah.
later it was 16 million colors. Like that pace that we're going through right now with AI makes everybody's head spin, whether you're old or young. It is so crazy trying to adapt to it. So let's unpack that a little bit. Like, what makes people nervous about it? What makes people that I talk to the most nervous is that their job might become obsolete the way that they know it right now. Like, I might not be able to do this job that I'm doing that I have spent years developing skills and I'm good at it, and like my job might go away. Now, the way I see it is this: your job doesn't go away, it becomes different. But it becomes
Mm.
different all the time anyway. Like if you're
Yeah.
standing still, if you're just doing the same thing that you did last year and the year before, like yeah, you're probably pretty good at it, but that's not exciting. It's not like forward motion. So how do we lean into this and embrace it, right? And I think what you need to do is figure out, like, first of all, like, where do you want to work? Because this is a game changer. And maybe you don't want to work at the same
Mm.
company that you're at right now. If you can kind of read the tea leaves, maybe that company is going to do great with this new world of AI. Maybe they're not. If you can figure that out and like position yourself where you do want to end up, that's kind of step number one. Step number two is see what has actually changed. So, like, one of the things that has changed dramatically, and I'm going to also talk about something that has not changed. So, something that has changed dramatically is the amount of time that you, as a software developer, need to spend just writing the code, like implementation. That has gone way down if you know what you're doing. And I want to separate that because you can also just make a royal mess with an AI chatbot, and you can make your programming task longer too, right? If you are not using it in the right way. So it's gotten a lot faster. You can get a lot more code written really fast. But what hasn't changed is this: your brain is still needed to guide, to shape, to correct. It's not just about like vibe coding and like, try it out and see if it works. Like a good software engineer, a good person who is writing code should understand like the architecture of what you're doing. And there's a whole new set of skills that did not exist just a couple of years ago that now are all about documenting your structure, documenting what code you're going to have the AI create, and then writing tests to validate that. So I'm focused really just purely on the software development side because that's kind of
Mm.
the
Yeah.
world that I live in. But AI is coming for everything else too, right? Like the writing. I know lots of people who their job was writing copy. They were given a task and they needed to communicate something with written words. And now, for good or bad, I kind of think it's bad. A lot of companies are turning just to AI to write that text for them. And even if it's not, it doesn't have that human touch, it doesn't have that soul in it, like good writing does, it's still good enough. Like it's good enough for advertising copy, it's good enough for instruction manuals, whatever. So that job is going away too, or it's changing, right? And you need to think about, what does that mean? What do I need to do to change what I'm doing so that I still have something interesting to do? And now let me throw a big punch at AI. The thing that I like the least, the thing that I am most upset about, is how AI is generating art, like generating pictures
Yeah,
that people are
the
calling
creativity
art.
side of it.
I
Yeah,
know I know great artists, and when you look at their art, you see a piece of their soul, right? Like it is moving, it is deep. There is something actually really human connection between the art appreciator and the art creator. And it's complicated and it's cool, and like you can just study that for a long time. When I was hosting the party for DeathCon this last weekend, held it at an art museum for a reason. We got private access to like two of the galleries, for an hour before we went and had our dinner. But every single person went in there, and we appreciated like the handwork that went into it. Some of the art was like over 100 years old. Some of it was brand new, but all of that connected with us. I am really, really, really upset that people are using AI to generate pictures and calling it art, because it's not, and it takes away the livelihood of artists. And I mean, I heard somebody say this, and I'm going to steal this phrase. I want the AI to do my dishes and laundry so that I have more time to make art. I do
yeah.
not want
I've
my
heard someone
AI
say that.
to make art so that I can spend my time doing dishes and laundry, right? Like, come on.
Yeah, I think the point you're making, and this is something that I've been actually thinking about. I've been spending a lot of my time thinking about this, and I think one thing you remember that I started out with is that we are here at the Link Group and Hack for Good. We are an organization that is people centered, right? And one of the things that I've been thinking about is this phrase that you can doesn't mean you should. And I think it kind of draws down to the line of what you're saying, Randy, is that we can generate art using AI does not mean we should. And one of the things I'm seeing, there's actually a bit of a backflip that a lot of people are having against AI, almost like an a global outcry. And it comes down to what AI does, where it renders anything it touches valueless.
Hmm.
Now, not everything, right? Like, think about it. One of the things that makes art, like you're saying, grandeur and special is the fact that you know that it takes sometimes years, decades to make a special piece. It's not something you do in 2 minutes. And because people are inherently or innately drawn to value. The reason why we pay a lot of money for diamond and gold is because we know it takes a lot of process to get, and it's scarce. So the same way with art is, if you can generate art in 2 minutes, why should anyone pay you $1 million for that? And what is the story behind it? Because, like you said, there's often a story, there's a soul behind the art. And I can probably, maybe perhaps we are starting a really important conversation here. So anyone who's watching this, who wants to be part of this conversation, please feel free to do so, because I think this is the thing that I think humanity, the human race, is not quite asking ourselves yet, which is that you can doesn't mean you should, or should you because you can, because it's not everything that you should. And I think one of the things I've been telling people quite recently is, do not let AI take your edge. Right? Again, our motto at Silink is silink.com is gain an edge. So, I'm really, 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 really particular with what people's edge is. If your edge is writing emails, then don't let AI write your emails. Hold on to that, because that's your edge. If your edge is making art, don't let AI take that. But Randy, my question for you is, and this is where I get worried. We've seen what happened when a lot of people, like if you remember when Gen AI first started, it sucked at generating images, it sucked at generating videos, and
Yep.
a lot of startups were created off the back of that. But like you said, the scale and the speed is so scary. Within just a couple of weeks or a couple of months, OpenAI was able to generate really good images, and Sora and all of that came out, right? Even Mid Journey is struggling to survive at this point. Again, I'm not making a statement, I don't have any insider information. But what I'm saying here is, if you're saying to someone, lean in, learn, upscale, how much can you lean in? How much can you technically learn? Because if it's almost like you're trying to stay on, but someone is pulling the mat off of under your feet. How much can
Yeah.
you really do you really learn and keep up? And this is what I see a lot of people have anxiety over. And I think, obviously I'm going to let you speak to that. But for me, it's all about that you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to ask ourselves the question: should we be doing this? And obviously, this conversation kind of goes into the underserved communities and untapped regions globally that we are working with here at the Link Group and Hack for Good. Is there's a lot of young people in places like Papua New Guinea, in places like Nigeria, Ghana, Myanmar, Vanuatu, and then places that are literally struggling. A lot of young people between the ages of 17 to 25 who are looking for a way to gain basic livelihood, and we're wanting AI to do stuff for us. So rather than empowering people, we are looking for the easy way out. Again, I obviously have a personal, a personal vendetta against this, but I think you've raised a good point. So I'm kind of keen for you to sort of speak to the point around how much really can you scale up to keep
Yeah.
up with this stuff that is moving at lightning speed?
Yeah. Well, let me make a distinction that I think is really important. You can be a user of products or a creator of products, right? And the key to like running forward, to leaning in, to like going as fast as you can is to see a need and then figure out how to fill the need. And instead of looking at all of the ways that AI is like taking away jobs that we used to do, which I am not saying is a good thing. It is a thing though, and we have to deal with it. But instead of looking at that, instead look for the opportunities. Look for, is there something that you always wanted to do? Some program, something that would make people's jobs easier, that would make their lives easier. That before it was too daunting for you to write this because there was some aspect of it that like it would just take you years and years. And now, if you learn the right skills, you could combine some of this, power of an LLM with the coding assistance that you get from an LLM and write an application that then people can use to do something, make something in their life a little bit easier. And think about like that phrase of I want the computer to do my dishes and laundry, right? So think about what is something that people don't like to do right now that you could write a program or a service, a web service or something that's going to take some of that burden away from them and let them focus on something cooler, something that it has value that people will pay for. Now, also while you're thinking about it, consider this. The business model that the AI companies, the big providers, want you to get into is they want you to subscribe to their service every month so that you have so many tokens and you can like use their service and they just take care of all of that for you. If you build your business around that, if you come up with this cool idea and you make something, but you're always beholden to that company, then as soon as they want to jack up the price, you're going to have no choice but to pay
Yep.
it. And then you're going to have to jack up your prices to your customers. And like, it's a vicious cycle. So take some time and learn the technology because there's actually things that you can run. There's open source models that are pretty decent. There's Olama. There's stuff that you can actually run on really inexpensive hardware. In fact, hang on, I've got a
Yes,
this is
guys. This was not scripted, guys.
yeah, this is an NVIDIA Jetson Nano. It's a super cheap little computer,
Wow.
but this will run Olama and a pretty decent model on an SD card. And it's got things like it's got a couple of cameras that you can attach to it here, and it can do computer vision, like stereo computer vision. So
Yep.
think about these applications that like interface with the physical world. Things like a program that can see and that can identify like people and animals. Like if you've got an application that you want to use that power and that capability for, a few years ago that would have been really difficult. Now it's like, hey, it's just this cheap piece of hardware that maybe you can borrow from somebody and learn how to use. So
No, that's pretty awesome.
yeah, let me give you another example. Like there is somebody at work who looked at really complicated technical work that an analyst is needed for. Like the human brain is needed to do the analytical work. But he looked at the process that people were taking to do the analytical work. It's basically investigations of, is this thing a threat or not? And that thing could be super complicated, like an email with a PDF that has a URL that leads to a download of a zip file, but only if you pass the anti-bot check, whatever it is, right? It's got a lot of steps. So when you get this and you're trying to investigate, first you have to go like type all of this stuff and run all these queries. You have to like get pieces from here, get pieces from there, put it all together, and then you need to like parse all this JSON, and like eventually at the end you get to the point where you are applying your brain, you're applying your analytical skill set to figure out what you need to figure out. But he saw this and he's like, you know what? The analyst is wasting 3/4 of the time they're working on this investigation
That
in
is big.
going out to get the information from all these different places. And there's a huge mental burden on the person to remember, like, what query do I need to get? Where do I need to run it? And then you have to wait for the query. Like, you hit run and you wait, and the progress bar goes like that, right? So he's like, what if we use AI to automate all the boring parts? Automate all the stuff that, like, we don't need to do, and basically it's running in the background and it's able to intelligently figure out like, oh, my query didn't finish, let me run it again, or that didn't return the results that I need, let me try this other one. So it's doing all this boring work. Meanwhile, the analyst can queue up a bunch of those jobs, computers running in the background, and then all they're doing with their time is just the fun part, just the analytical creative human part. That is seeing a need and filling a need.
I think the way you put it is quite succinct, and I like that, which is look away from the technology itself and look into the real world for where problems, actual real everyday problem exist,
Yep.
and focus on solving those problems. But again, you gave the caution of do not be too quick to basically just buy an API key, buy a couple of tokens, and go, yep, I built a new app. I've solved the problem. Really think about the problem deeply so you understand some of the risks that actually exist. Now, your original business plan might be, to start out as an MVP and using the tokens because it's easier. But always
Yep.
have that backup plan to actually go and build so you don't become beholden to the fangs. It's not. I think it's now more than a fang because you're gonna
Yeah.
have to add OpenAI in there now, right? And Nvidia, like all of these big companies that are worth billions and billions of dollars overnight. And I think it's pretty scary. I think I said to my wife Tara just the other day that I'm pretty much in holding a popcorn and watching this play out mode at this stage. But ultimately, what we believe here at Hack for Good, at the Link Group, is that we are a people first organization. And Randy, you put that quite succinctly. Focus on solving the human layer problems, and ultimately you're going to find that you're going to win at the long run. So for anyone who's struggling out there, who's wondering what is going to happen to my job, look around you. You might need to, adapt. You might need to learn. You might need to change, but that's okay, right? Because if you're a lifelong learner, that thing probably not worry you anymore. And if you're wondering, oh, when should I start? Do I need to quit my job? I'm sure Randy is going to agree with me on this. There's no better time to do it than now. Use an hour. Like, I'm not even the type that says, watch Netflix or do that. Like, it can literally just be an hour every single week. And before
Yep.
you know it, you're going to find enthusiasm and passion for it that you're going to decide on yourself, on your own, to start spending more time on that. So, Randy, obviously, as we kind of wrap up, because I know you've obviously got to, get back. Hopefully, you've had some dinner as well, and hopefully get some rest. But one of the things I want to talk about is not a lot of people know DeathCon. I have to pronounce it very well.
Uh-huh.
Here over here in Australia, but you guys are super popular in the US. You're super popular in Europe. But that was why when I had a chat with you, I'm like, wait, you mean DeathCon? And you're like, no, DeathCon, like the real one, the OG, DEATH, con. And I'm kind of obviously I know there's a story behind that. If you don't mind sort of talking about that, because you guys do something quite unique that I think you and I share, have in common, which is don't just do a conference that people just come and talk. Actually give people something tangible to walk away with. But what is actually the story behind it? And I know you've kind of told me this before, but obviously the people don't know that. So if you don't mind taking a couple of minutes and talking about the story behind that and why people should register for next year DEFCON conference, which we're obviously going to be partnering again. If you don't mind me troubling you as always. So if you don't mind talking about that, that would be awesome.
Yeah. All right. So DEATH stands for Detection,
Yes.
Engineering, and Threat Hunting. That's what it's all about. And I need to give credit, although I can't remember the guy's name on Twitter. Like 4.5 years ago, somebody put out Drake. You know that meme, and it's like Detection, Engineering, and Threat Hunting, and then the good part of it was death. And it was just a really
Oh,
cool meme. And
nice.
so my friends and I were talking about it, and we're like, because all of us were doing this work. We were in detection engineering. Like we mostly worked on endpoint detections, looking for like unusual behaviors that were not malware, but it was like living off the land, binaries and scripts that threat actors use, like PowerShell and MSHTA and stuff like that. Stuff that normally runs, it's signed by Microsoft, like it has no antivirus hits. But if you know what to look for, like the weird patterns, this isn't the way PowerShell normally works. Like it doesn't normally run this way, it runs this way. Looking for the things that are unusual, that is threat hunting. And then when you like make that a nice tight uh, requirement, or sorry, a pattern. So if you're like, every time this pattern exists, like in the command line arguments, or every time this pattern exists, for example, like command.exe, rename to another name, another file name, and run from a different place. Like anytime I see that, that's bad. I want to get an alert. I want like incident response to be at the ready when that happens. That is detection engineering, and that's a more disciplined approach. Threat hunting is super cool. That's my favorite, because that's like wild and crazy or super creative. You're like, huh, I wonder. Like one of the threat hunts I did one time that turned out to be pure gold was this. I noticed that some malware was running in run DLL 32, and then it would call another DLL with reg server 32. And if you don't know, like those are two different distinct programs. And I'm like, huh, I've got access to like hundreds of thousands of endpoints and all of their records across all of my different clients. I wonder how often it is that run DLL 32 is the parent process of reg server 32. Guess what? It's like never. That never happens in normal. I'm like, oh, this is great. And I noticed in these Cobalt Strike profiles, I was collecting a bunch from stupid threat actors who left their Cobalt Strike servers open to the whole internet. I was grabbing all their profiles, grabbing all the beacon configs, and I noticed like that's a common pattern. Like almost everybody, it's like some kind of a default template or something. Like they'll start in run DLL 32 and they'll call
and then pivot.
Yeah. Okay, so those kind of like creative insights, that's threat hunting, and then turning it into something that is a detection engineering. We realized, I was talking to Tigran and Olaf, my friends, and we were like, there is no conference out there that just focuses on that. There's like blue team conferences. There's like, DEF CON, which we all go to and we love, even though it's crazy.
It's a great conference.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's where we high five all our friends and do crazy stuff and, do all the things you do in Vegas. But, or maybe not all of those things. But we love that. But there's no like.
You just had to walk back that one very quickly.
I did. I was thinking like, that includes a lot of stuff. Okay, so there was nothing that's like just for us. So we're like, well, we just found this really cool meme that we love, and maybe I'll put it in the notes when I find like the Twitter handle of the guy that made it, because I appreciate him. But we love this thing. Like, what if we make a conference around it? And like, so then we started imagining, ooh, this is gonna be fun. Like, all of us had taught workshops before. We'd given talks, we'd taught workshops, like we'd done all of this stuff. We'd also been to a bunch of workshops and we'd taken stuff from other people. And we agreed, we like talks because they're easy. You just sit there and listen, but we learn more from workshops because we struggle. Like the more you struggle, the more you learn. It's hard. It takes like paying attention, and usually they're long. Like talks are usually like 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Workshop could be all day, right? Like you gotta get your energy drinks or your kombucha or whatever it is that keeps you awake, and do that. So we're like, what if we have a conference where it's all workshops? There's no talks, only workshops. It's all detection engineering and threat hunting. And then this was the biggest, weirdest idea. This actually credit to Olaf. He's like, you know what? I go to these conferences around the world, but there's like these little cliques of like there's the North American people who don't talk to the South American people. And then there's the people in Europe who aren't talking to people in Africa. And like, why don't we do something that everybody can participate in? And so we decided the founding principles of this conference would be, it must be accessible from all over the world, which means everything is online first. You can do every bit of learning that you possibly can wherever you are.
Of course, it's better in person, but yes.
Exactly. And when we do it in person, we're not going to pick one location and just grow it bigger and bigger and bigger. Instead, every time we want to grow, we're going to plant a new one in a new city. Somebody's going to take up the leadership of that. And the biggest that any city will get is 50 people. That's it. That way you can get to know everybody. It's like intimate, friendly. Like you can actually make some friends, and you're not just sort of lost in a sea of people, because it can get that way in a big con. So we started doing it, and then this year we've got 11 cities all over the world. We had just as many people online as we had in person. We had 25 workshops. There was, if you stayed awake and didn't sleep at all, you could go like 3 days and nights straight just doing workshops and not get through them all. We had a CTF, we had a story, we had a RMM rodeo, a new contest. It was just so much fun, and the reflections that I'm getting back from people about how much they learned, and mostly that they made good friends, that they formed some relationships that are going to last longer than the conference. So I'm really pleased with it. I'm really excited. Every year we double it. So this year is 512. Next year, 1,024. We're going for it.
Wow, it's going to be awesome. Like, guys, just in case, I'm going to share my screen, just in case you guys are not aware of this. DeathCon has been so kind to let us use some of those workshops for the Hack for Good Con. So, guys, all of the workshops you see, I'm just going to share my screen real quick so you guys can see the cool stuff. All of these workshops have been donated by DeathCon. So a big shout out. By the way, Randy, you've got a secret admirer in the comment section. Shout out to you, Fahan, and shout out to you, Tony. Rai, also shout out to you as well. You guys are doing an incredible job. Thank you so much for always showing up to be part of these conversations. So it is going to be hard. I tell you guys, it is going to be amazing. Like Randy said, some of this workshop can take a whole day. And we have put together an incredible team of cybersecurity defenders, hackers, and innovators, business leaders, and cyber leaders in general as well. It's a mixture of students, professionals, experts, and what have you, and enthusiasts, right? Those who are just like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I came for the pizza. But we've got such an incredible thing. So I just want to really take this moment to say shout out to Alex Rakilo. I have no idea how to pronounce people's names, but we've got Ed Reeves.
Gribbs.
It's a Gribbs. Okay, there you go. We have Ksenia Gnavuk and Marvin Ghana. All right, wait, Marvin, Ksenia. Let's stick to the first names.
Okay, I think
and we also have Glenn.
Yes.
Randy, do you want to say the names? I think you're probably better at saying these names than I am.
I'll give them a shot. I actually didn't pronounce everybody's names before, so my apologies in advance if I butcher them. But my experience with being a dispatcher taught me how to at least take a go at pronouncing everybody's names. So Alex Ronhilo, Ed Gibbs, Ksenia Ignatovic, Marvin Ngoma. Scroll on down.
Yeah,
there we go. Glenn
I
Barrett.
There was another guy that was part of this workshop that's not listed here, so feel free to also shout them out as well.
Okay, I can't remember. You put me on the spot. Kyrie Wall, Konsgaard, and Anja Olsen. Again, apologies if I did not pronounce your name correctly.
That's good, guys. You heard it first. So we have not just made up some workshop out of middle of nowhere. Guys, we've got global backing, and Randy and his team have put in so much effort. Guys, we currently have the live CTF, Hack for Good CTF 2025 Hack of No Nation going on right now, and we're quickly going to go take a look at the the leaderboard to see what's been happening, right? Because it's been happening, all right, people. It's been happening, all right. We actually at some point we had this group that was called "I just want to buy a beer" or something. Win to buy a beer. They were winning. I'm like, we're gonna have to buy someone a beer. But hopefully they've been kicked out of the leaderboard. I don't know, because I don't want to buy anyone a free beer. I don't know, because we're not for profit. But Randy, thank you so much for the work that you and your team have done and for donating these workshops. Of course, that from the bottom of my heart, I am so grateful, and we love the work that you do at DEFCON. I can tell you this: 2026. There will be a DEFCON in Melbourne, Australia, again, after the Hack for Good one. So, I think that there's, Dr. Rob. Is it Dr. Rob that is in Melbourne?
Dr. Don? Oh, you're asking.
I've forgotten his name. Yeah, sorry, mate.
Don. Hang on. We'll get this.
I have no idea why my brain is going into it.
Aussie Death Squad. Oh, but he's just got his Discord name on there, so that's not going to help me.
Yeah, all good. So, well, you know who we're talking about
Yeah.
if you're on the Discord server. So, we're going to be collaborating to actually run one of this workshop again. Either that be at Hack for Good Con, or we can actually just do one live at the same time as to those who are obviously globally as well. So, shout out to to yourself, Randy. So, guys, if you have not gotten your ticket, please go straight right now to con.htk4g con.hack4good/2025 so you can see what we've got in store for you guys. Like I said, guys, it is going to be a power-packed conference and all-day funness, and we actually have our very own cyber DJ who's going to be dropping the beat, for good, right? For good. So if you haven't already signed up, if you haven't already bought a ticket, if you're sitting on the fence wondering who is this Sammy guy, who does Sammy think he is, guys. Remember this, it's not just me, it's the awesome team that we've got from all over the world, and one of them being Randy. So, Randy, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think one thing we'll just do quickly.
I got to redeem myself because I looked it up, and I hate getting people's names wrong, so my apologies. Dr. Dave Ormrod. Oh my gosh, that's who's going to be leading us in Melbourne.
That's all good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we are going to be doing it. So there's definitely opportunity there. So guys, if you have not already followed DeathCon on LinkedIn, you can find them on LinkedIn. So just search for DeathCon. And also, they are also on I think it's Stack Exchange or Security Exchange.
Oh, probably.
I think you guys are Security Exchange.
Yeah.
Well, every single place where you can find them.
Amazon, and Twitter, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, the moment of truth. I feel like we need action music for this one. The moment of truth, right? Let's go. What's been going on here? Let's look at the leaderboard. All right. Oh boy, it's happening, guys.
There's some action
my goodness.
going on.
This is happening. This is getting crazier. Oh my goodness, this is cool. I am blown away. Where is buy me? Yeah, win hack for beer. Yeah. It seems like I'm not buying someone a beer. Take that. Shout out to you, Uncolifed. How do you Uncolifed? Yeah, Uncolifed. And obviously it's TCID. You guys are doing it. You're holding your second place there. Well done, Uncolifed. I have no idea whether you found a bug or a 0 day in one of those challenges to get this point. But guys, hope you're having fun.
Unqualified.
It's unqualified. It is unqualified. It is unqualified. It is unqualified. So, guys, you can tell this year we had over 150 to 200 teams register. So it is amazing. Like you can see this. These are not users. These are teams. So there's a lot happening here. This is amazing, guys. Thank you so much, for everyone who's participating. We still go on, right? We're still doing this until 12 p.m. Saturday, AEDT, I believe, Australian Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time. So, guys, keep playing, keep having fun, keep hacking for good. And do not forget, this is for the mission to disrupt cybercrime in underserved communities and untapped regions globally. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And for those who are obviously going to come on Saturday, do not forget we are still running our Buy Now Gift One campaign. So if you're coming, you can bring your mate with you for free, absolutely 100% free. Just make sure you register them on the platform so that you can also come. So obviously, so our team can plan. But we want to have as many people there. We have live workshops happening. Shout out to DEFCON for that. And also shout out to our other sponsors as well. I literally have no time to go and listen because Randy needs to go to sleep. But you know yourself, incredible individuals all over the world who are making this happen. So with that, Randy, I think it's time to sort of wrap this thing up. So what would be your final two things to say?
All right. So Sammy, I realized that we went through all of this and you asked me for FBI stories and I didn't share any. That was not me being coy. I actually do want to share one with you, and this is not from any case. Yes. This is not from any case, so that I can actually talk about this. But one of the things that I did was after I'd been working on cybercrime cases and done a whole lot of reverse engineering malware and tracking cyber criminals and closing cases, I got the chance to teach, and I actually got some professional training in how to teach a class. And after I was done with learning the official bureau way to teach a class, I threw all of that out the window, and I designed a class around a CTF. So this is, I think, one of the most fun, rebellious things that I did was throw out the book on traditional classroom training, and I went to the FBI Academy, had a group of new computer scientists who were going to go out in the field they'd been there for a number of weeks already, like, learning how to do search warrants and learning how to do, computer searches. And I set up a capture the flag. And in that capture the flag were actual things from real FBI cases. So there was like malware
Whoa.
that stole credit cards from a case. And there was another one that did something else. And there were like database dumps from command and control servers. And all of the challenges were real things that me and the other guy who taught it with me, Ryan, we put our heads together and like we basically got the funnest parts of all the cases that we had worked on and we made them into a CTF. And we just started all the students off. We were like, hey, here's our names, here's the snacks, here's the CTF. We got them going, and they struggled so hard with it. And then at the end, that was half the day. We spent the next half, the afternoon, after lunch, when everybody was kind of beat up, we're like, all right, which of those challenges did you struggle with the most? And then we taught. And guess what? People were ready to learn because they're like, I want to know how to get that flag.
Face the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And they were just laser focused on every word that we said. And I love that. Just turning it around and making a competition first. Nobody's helping you. No instruction. You just go in and you try to do it. You figure it out or you don't. And then you ask for help. Somebody teaches you. That was the best. And I think what you're doing with the CTF, I think it's brilliant. Thank you.
That's awesome. I love what you said there. I think one of the things that people don't realize is that what you just said is so profound. And the last sentence you finished with, which is, asking for help. And I think that's where a lot of cyber platforms and training organizations, without having to name names, get it wrong, is that they've got this mindset that, oh, you fail, but you just keep trying on your own. But the fact that you were able to say, you know what, now let me actually show you, like there is help around, but you just needed to have a go. And I think that's something that is special that we're doing here at Hack for Good. And Scilink.com, obviously. So that's why we say we are a job-ready first cybersecurity training platform. So, Randy, it's been absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that story. I was hoping I would get an FBI story out of you. So, yes, guys, you heard it first here at Hack for Good Con Podcast, Voice of Change. 2025 Hack of No Nation. So it's been absolutely incredible getting to chat with you, my friend. I think, I'm sure we're going to be doing some pretty cool, awesome things together. So yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super pumped. So if you don't mind giving the people, what they came here for, that final last, I guess, truth nugget, and we can close this thing up.
All right. Well, this is the most profound thing I can think of, and that is that the relationships you make, the people you get to know, the people in your community that you build yourself, the people that you choose to be around, are far more valuable over the long term than anything that you do, anything you accomplish, any awards that you get and hang up on the wall and eventually throw in the trash. Yep. Those people, they are gold. So take the time, like actually prioritize that, spend the time with people, invest in people. If you've received something from your family, from your friends, from people that have supported you, pay it forward. Help other people. That's all I got.
That is so profound. Guys, log off, go make some good friends. Just rock up to someone and say, hey, my name is Sammy Chucks. Can we be friends? It'll be weird only for the first day. And then after that, it'll be a great pub story or coffee story. So thank you so much, Randy, for that. That was so good. Guys, you heard it first here. That was absolutely incredible. I am so grateful to Randy for making this happen. Without you, my friend, I don't know how I would have gone today. So I just want to, just leave with this, power-packed music to say, guys, this is it. This is it. It's happened. The very first, interview of an FBI, agent. I don't know if you're still undercover, so I'm not going to say X or still, doing it or not. So I'm just going to
I'm private sector all the way. I work for Proofpoint.
All right. So the first FBI agent being interviewed for a cybersecurity thing. You got it here first, guys. So shout out, and do not forget to continue to advocate for young people in places where they're often forgotten and left out to dry. Together, we can build a better world that genuinely cares about humanity and making each other, better from every single angle. So, guys, it's been your host, Sammy Chucks. Once again, it's your boy, the Cyber Yoda, because I'm very smart, as you know. It's been an incredible journey having a chat with Mr. Randy. Randy, thank you so much for your time. With that, I'll catch you all on Saturday at Hack for Good Con. Thank you so much.